Cyberpunk is one of the best games ever made. And if you disagree with me, then you can go fuck yourself. And I'm so excited that I get to do a Cyberpunk tattoo. And then I come into work and the printer doesn't fucking work because that's exactly what printers do. I just think it's funny that in an age of AI and all these technological advancements, self-driving cars and all that kind of shit, we still can't make printers not chew up paper for no fucking reason. I mean, what? Anyway, this tattoo is a big motherfucker. It's going on an upper arm, so we're filling the space from elbow to shoulder. And we don't have paper that big that fits in a printer that small. I don't know why those are my options. I don't make the hardware. Maybe I should start making printers. Why the fuck would you do that? You're a tattoo artist. Shut the fuck up. So we start by measuring out the space that we're filling up, and that meant that I needed 3 sheets of paper to make the stencil this size. Now, one important thing when you're making a stencil, you fucked it, Sam. Look at that. You see them, you nudge it. The rage I felt then. You know when you do something and you fuck up and you feel like that heat prickling up the back of your neck. And you just the rage. Yeah, that's what I felt there. There's an important lesson here about making sure that you've got like the bit of tape on the back of your hand so that you don't let go of the paper when you're taping it up, because you will nudge it and you will just piss yourself off. Look, I don't learn. I do it once, I fuck it up, and I do it again, and I have to fix my mistake. And look, my hand's ready now with the tape on it so that I don't make the mistake again. Do you think I'm going to learn? Because I'm doing a second session the day after this one. What's the betting that I don't learn from this? Anyway, the important thing is to make sure that the top piece sits under the bottom piece, so that as I'm peeling the stencil down and away from the arm, I don't have that folding that's going to create smudging or misalign the stencil underneath. You'll notice that I only cut the gaps between the pages before I stuck it together, and then I cut the rest of it out afterwards. This is so that the edges are uniform, they're not all sticking out at funny angles. It's closer to it being one clean sheet of paper, which makes it easier to line it up for me and piece this thing together. No one's ever actually asked me why we shave the area before we apply the tattoo. They just patiently let me do it. I don't think I'm going to explain it in this video. I think I'm just going to let you guys wonder forever. The reality is that every tattoo artist that has ever lived has a fetish for dolphin skin, so we shave you to make you nice and smooth for our own perversions. Because of the sheer scale of this tattoo, the stencil's fucking huge, so I get somebody else to come in and help me. In this case, Bree is holding the stencil in place while I smooth out the edges. The stencil is huge, so having an extra pair of hands just to make sure it doesn't move or fall or anything is useful. The trouble is I used the Electrum Gold Standard, and so the stencil was not great combined with the inkjet, whatever the fuck that's called. So this time I'm mixing the Gold Standard with the green gold from Electrum. Mixing them together, I found, makes it a bit tackier and a bit more gooderer for applying stencils. You'll see that this time the stencil goes on a lot smoother and a lot cleaner, and it holds a lot better. The trouble is, we find a nice new issue when we peel it off, because there's an existing tattoo, and so one of Rebecca's boobs hides behind that tattoo. So we fuck off and we make another fucking stencil with my favorite machine in the building. We all know how much I love printers. Should we see if I learned from my previous... Look at that, I fucking learned. I learned from my mistakes earlier in the day. I put the tape on the back of my hand, ready, so that I don't nudge the stencil as I tape it back together. Wow, that's progress. Well done, Sama. You don't see that very often. Sama learning something. Anyway, let's zip through. Watch me make another stencil. Look at that progress. So incredible. So proud of myself. chop it up just like the last time, making sure that the folds are in the correct places. And this time what I'm doing is I'm using my index finger to feel where the edge of the boob is and lining that up with the tattoo that's underneath so that it doesn't hide behind the existing tattoo in the same way as it did the first time. Peel it off using the correct combination of gold standard and green gold from Electrum, and it gives me this beautifully clean stencil. And look at that, I didn't tuck it behind the tattoo. I did record a fun little time lapse for you all to see exactly how I make my tattoos, and in this one we made sure that everything was out of frame so you couldn't see what the fuck I'm doing at the beginning of the session. The goal for the first day when we're doing these double day sessions is to make sure that I finished as much as makes sense for one chunk, as it were. So in this case, I'm doing the whole torso, neck, and like her jacket. This is so that I have a nice clean cut where the chin is, so that tomorrow when I come back in and apply the stencil, I'm firstly not going over anything that we did today, and secondly, I'm making sure that I can align the stencil with ease. On to day 2, we chop up the stencil in the same way that we did the day before, but this time I'm going to remove the neon at the top just to make it easier for me to follow the flow of the body. Now, we're always told that we should follow the flow of the body when we're making tattoos, but what the fuck does that even mean? Well, in Guy Aitchinson's book, Reinventing the Tattoo, he goes on to talk about following things like muscle structure so that the piece follows the body. Now, that works really beautifully for his style of work. You know, it's this bioorganic, beautiful, kind of gross, bony, swirling patterns. It's got this real 90s tribal edge, but without looking tacky and shit. The problem is that doesn't apply for portraits because I can't distort a face to make it follow the swirl of a shoulder muscle because that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Wait, did he tape up that guy's ass instead of censoring it later? That's hilarious. Anyway, less about Gay Aitchison. Yep, good. Well done, Sammer. Idiot. So the most important part of the tattoo is, of course, the face. A portrait isn't a portrait without a face. And now I've said that out loud, I do wonder if I'm a little bit stupid. What I'm doing with the face is I'm marking it out using a method that I've stolen from Alex Dupas, where he puts quite a light layer of colour in through the whole face. This is so that he can build it up over a few layers to get smoother and more defined blends. I don't think that's entirely necessary over the whole piece, but for smaller areas like the eyes, nose, mouth, eyebrows, this is a really useful technique. It lets you build up a few layers without destroying your stencil. Or rather, you are going to destroy your stencil, but you're not getting in your own way. So once I've marked out those major elements, you can see that I'm putting in thick, definite elements like the eyeliner, her eyelashes, the eyelids. The reason that I'm doing this now is because things like eyelids and her eyelashes, and in a second I'll put in her eyebrow hairs individually, is that once I've put colours over the top, it will soften those slightly and give them less focus and bringing them into the rest of the piece. Because I'm pushing in a bunch of line work in a piece of realism, I don't want my lines to be too harsh and too cartoony. Another really important thing to do is to work on the eyes as a pair so that you keep balance when you're working on both of them side by side. We come back from a little lunch break, and for some reason the camera has come back in with a really shit washed out look, which is absolutely perfect when you're trying to see the colours that I'm putting in. Now I'm going to continue to push these colours in layer by layer throughout the rest of the face. I'm going to put in a few more layers on this than I would do anywhere else, just because I want that kind of level of subtlety in my gradients that I don't necessarily need in things like fabric and folds, and I will do in the hair. I think it's important to note that it's only now that I've started to push black shadows in. We're about 35 minutes into this section, and it's only just time for me to push those bits of structure in. Now, I'm pushing those in around the eye makeup, around the cyberwear on her face, and I've already moved out of black to finish the cyberwear. The reason that I'm pushing these details in now is because I want to come over it later with a Magnum shader just to break up the harsher edges and push it back into the image a little bit more so it's not so prominent. It needs to be part of her rather than a piece sitting on top. And with realism, because the line work should be softer so it doesn't look harsh and cartoony, this is important. Now, when choosing needles, you saw me just there pick out a 13 mag, look at it and change my mind and swap it to a 27 mag. It is important that you always have flexibility in your process, no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's tattooing or something else, because you might have all these rules and tools that are set for certain jobs, but when you get there, changing your mind and being able to adapt will make your life so much easier. Just blindly following the rules is going to get in your way. For this piece, the low lights have built up the entire structure of the face. So now I'm finishing off those high tones with those pinks and some of the oranges in there so that my structure is complete. You can see, even though I haven't put any of my shadows in the greys, the face already has a bit of shape to it, and you can see what I'm actually building and why I'm building it. This is, again, more stuff that I've stolen from painters and artists that I've admired throughout my life. I wish that I could take credit for some of these ideas, but I didn't come up with any of this. This is all just stolen information. I'm going to speed this next section up because it's a little bit boring. There's just big sweeping sections. But you can see I'm moving into my midtones, building up those same structures, and then I start moving into my high tones. But this is where that adaptability thing comes in. You can see that I've put all my layers in. I sit back and I start to go, some sections are too light. There isn't enough contrast. So I put shadows in over the top. Now, this is the reason why I use the finer pins so that I can put all these layers in. Once I've got the shape of the face in, I start to push in the finer details like the lips, the eyes, all of those fiddly bits around the edges that I can start to build up properly. Now, not that you can see it thanks to the fucking terrible camera quality, but in these sections I'm using quite fleshy pinks. These bits need to feel real. Her lips and eyes need to feel real compared to her kind of cold, dead body. Now, we've moved on to the eyes, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier about how it's really important that you work on the eyes as a pair just to make sure that you have that consistency between the two. So you'll see that I put the shadows in and then I put the midtones and the highlights in both eyes side by side so that I can check them against each other and make sure that they make sense as a pair. Someone told me once that if you get the eyes and nose right, you can fuck up the rest of the face and it will still look like the person. Now, that doesn't mean be fucking lazy and fuck up the rest of the face, but it does mean that that is the most important section. Her eyes were particularly difficult in this one because they are so inorganic. They are shining with their own light, so there's no catch light to put in. They're just fucking weird, man. They're just fucking weird. Anyway, final layer is the whites on this section because I wanted those to be the harshest and the cleanest. They have to sit on top of any other layers that I put in through the rest of this so that they are the most vibrant. Now, as long as you've got your damage under control, you can put the whites in at any stage. But in this case, the important part is that they are the most vibrant. You can see me putting some of these reds in over the top, and I'm not worried about staining or anything because I'm not doing so much damage that it should matter. Now, you'll notice in the ear here, he starts bleeding way more than he has done with the rest of the tattoo. This is usually a sign that we should take a break. Your body needs just a little rest, get a bit of sugar in you, have something to eat, have maybe something to drink, and then we're good to go. So we gave him a little break and started ploughing through the hair. Now, the hair is fucking boring. There are no shortcuts. There are no easy ways of doing the hair. You just got to take your time on it. Go slowly. Just get on with it. Fucking hair. It's my least favorite thing to do in a tattoo, you know. I hate doing hair, fur textures, all that shit. And then I specialize in portraits. I don't know, just to torture myself. Fucking asswipe. Now, this is actually my favorite part of the videos that I took. Look at the look on his face, just fucking hatred. And he says, it's dry. He just fucking hates me scraping off that stencil. Now, this is exactly why I wanted the stencil to be separate at the top there. You see, I've sliced it in the middle and I've lost a little bit in the center of the hair. But because it's such a loosely detailed part, it's okay for me to lose some of the section because it doesn't matter that it's not there anymore. This is what I was talking about when I say we follow the shape of the body. Not whatever Guy Aitchison was talking about with his super complicated... Fuck, that looks cool, doesn't it? Ah, sick. This is one of the coolest tattoos I think I've ever got to do. I'm so proud of this. Fuck me. Anyway, follow me on Instagram to see the full thing. Thanks for watching. Fuck you.